making a paint video. This is coming along. The camera stand is coming along, but the problem is I made this too narrow and now only the corner of this tablet fits in here. But that's okay for now. I'm going to put this in there and have it like this tilted, but that's okay. I'm going to later on, I'm planning on putting another foam rubber thing on the back, but this time all the way around, and then make it loose enough so that it has also a deeper pocket and wider pocket and looser, so that the whole tablet, the whole Nabi tablet, with these big bumpers that are, you know, sticking out, so that this all fits in here nice and snug, and I can use it and move it around. So, but in the meantime, I'm just gonna stick the corner in and film my paint process in an angle. So there's a couple things I need to talk about today, and I don't know if I get this all into one video, but it's artwork. It's really pretty on my pink t-shirt. Love it. So I'm planning on putting this shape, the Blue Cotton Dog form, on every one of my t-shirts and some of my pants. I've already done some fabric paint art on some of my, I have some camo pants, and that loosens up this military type of look, you know, and makes it into hippie, and that's what I like. So anyway, I'm gonna put this in here. Yeah, I hope this will work. These things are coming along too. I just paint one layer after another. Very tedious work is this, but it has to be done that way. That way, when it's finished, you know, the yellow and everything glows. And my sun, my big orange yellow sun. Okay, and this thing here looks like a blueberry pie, and I would love to make a blueberry vegan pie exactly in this shape, with marzipan, vegan marzipan, whole vegan marzipan, not just the stripped almond, but the whole almond paste with honey. Put that in, and layers of pistachio paste over it, and layers of carob, honey, cashew paste, and all these different layers on the inside, like a marble cake, like a tree cake. You know, we have in Germany, we have something called Baumkuchen, which is like, it looks, when you cut it, it looks like a tree on the inside with all these tree rings, and it tastes delicious, and I miss that so much. But I want to make all of this in whole food, and that would be so much better, actually, you know, to make it in whole food instead of, and vegan, that's very important, instead of making it with all these terrible ingredients like white sugar and white flour and all of this, and all these liquors and all these things that people put in, baking soda. You know, baking soda itself is good. I just don't think it belongs into food. You know, it tastes bitter. It doesn't rise the dough very much, and I also don't work with yeast. It's way too time consuming, and it doesn't make any sense to me. When I bake like, you know, like someone who makes pralines, you know. It's very condensed and heavy, like, you know, more like fruit cake, sort of, you know, like more like nut bread, but like without any rising agents in it. Just very condensed. That's how I like it. I mean, it's also, I also like some fluffy muffins sometimes, but, and I used to like those, but I just don't like, I don't like any kind. I don't like the baking powders, things that they put in it. So, you know, if you know a rising agent that is whole food, let me know. That would be much better. Yeah. We can also put maybe diatomaceous earth in it. I don't know if that causes it to rise, so I think that would just make it become more cohesive, you know, without using eggs. You can use diatomaceous earth, like a tablespoon of it, of diatomaceous earth powder. You mix that into the flour. I've done this before. It does have a caking agent function, but I used it with coconut flour and it still fell apart, because when you work with coconut flour alone, it does crumple apart. So you can use a little bit coconut flour, but use the rest wheat flour, whole wheat flour, or other whole grain flours, and that will work the best. And then put blueberries in it, and then you can make something like this. That'd be awesome. So this is not 100% finished, but it almost is. It almost is. So yeah, I'm gonna start with the thing that is the most pressing, and that is that, oh yeah, and I don't want to make commercial or anything for these people, because it's always like, you know, any publicity is better than no publicity. That's how it always works, and I always keep that in mind. But there is this guy from the Faroese Islands, and he claims to be a Viking, and and that self-image of being a Viking is more important to him than anything else. It's more important to him than highly sentient beings being slaughtered to death. You know, so he promotes the slaughter of pilot whales. He has even participated in that, and that is, to me, that's atrocious. It's monstrous to do something like this to another living being, and particularly such magnificent, large, highly sentient, even more sentient than humans. So this one is finished. So I'm gonna put this over here. Yeah, so he he debated Paul Watson, you know, from Sea Shepherd. Paul Watson has founded Sea Shepherd way back in the 60s. He also was one of the founding fathers of Greenpeace, which later on they kicked him out, you know, out of his own group, you know, and they corrupted it completely. And so he founded Sea Shepherd to give an alternative, and where the people are really courageous and really doing something and really protecting life on Earth, really putting, you know, their bodies out there and risking their lives, giving their bodies as living shields. Sea Shepherd are doing this, and that's why they are the best, they are the most important, vital, crucial, amazing, stellar organization out there. They risk their lives all the time. Some other groups do too. You know, not not putting the other ones down. I'm just saying, Sea Shepherd, they have just grown the biggest with this because of time span, the length of time they have been doing this, the many years since the 60s. and the things they have done in all these years, the amount of animals they have saved and protected with their own bodies is, it's tremendous. To me, those are the real Vikings, you know, those are the real courageous people. And this rock star guy, he claims to be a Viking, and he he lives on the self-image of being badass, and that's all he knows, and that's all he's ever known. Like being badass and thinking that being brutal and mean and gruesome is, you know, that's his pride. So it's the self-image, and it's very representative for a lot of people that don't have enough education. So to cling to a self-image of brutality and gruesomeness and all of this, and then other people will jump on that bandwagon, and so on, and then it snowballs. And so, but apparently a lot of his fans worldwide didn't know that he was supporting such an atrocious, brutal slaughter of pilot whales, and that he has participated in that in the past. And they don't even eat the meat. They just, it's a perpetuation of something that they call culture. So the Japanese do the same thing, you know. It's like they call something this brutal culture. Would you call murdering little children, raping little girls? Would you, if that's always been done by a certain group or country, would you rely on the word culture for that? Seriously, I mean, would you? Is that culture? You know, the same goes to brutally murdering seals, whales, dolphins, or you know, or any other animal. It's just, do you call, if you call that culture, then you have absolutely no idea. You have absolutely no idea about morals and ethics and right conduct, and dharma, and you know, living in peace and kindness on this planet. You have absolutely no idea about it then, if you call that culture. So anyway, he debated Paul Watson. Paul Watson debated him, and guess what? Paul Watson won the argument by 1,000,000 times. And my husband just told me about it. I also saw it on Facebook. I saw it on Paul Watson's page. And because Paul Watson won the argument, now that guy has lost a lot of fans, and people, the record sales went down, and so now that pressured him into not participating in the whale slaughter. That's good that it had this effect. However, he's still promoting it. He still goes on and thinks it's okay, because his entire self-image has built itself on this, what he calls culture, you know, and it's just barbaric. It's brutal. I don't like the word barbaric. It's brutal and gruesome, and it's an atrocity, and he still promotes it. He still clings to that self-image. I guess, you know, he doesn't want to lose his friends or his peer group or whatever, you know. It's like caught up in all of this, and he puts this friend and peer group into, that puts that on a high pedestal, you know, this self-image and this, you know, this identification with this country, with this nation, and people and peer group and friends and all of this. He puts that over anything else, over the well-being of other beings. So, I mean, I want people to really start thinking about this. You know, get into this. Get into morals, ethics. What's really moral? What's really ethical? Is it a religion that rapes little children? Is that moral? Just because you've been told it is? Think about this. Same goes for the whales. Is that okay? Is this lifestyle, is this culture in quotation marks, is that okay for you if it brutally tortures for an hour a living being that's more sentient than you are? Or is can we question this? This is what I'm raising to the public. I raise this question. Can we question? Can we question culture? Can we question this identification with that culture, with those terrible cultures that are out there? That's not the only terrible culture. There's terrible cultures worldwide. Can we question these things? I hope we can. I hope people can. Sit down and stop what you're doing and question your culture, what you've been brought up with. Question it. Question whole humanity. Okay. Humanity does not stand on a pedestal. It is, according to Nietzsche, it is a dangerous transgression, a dangerous treading on the same spot. It's a dangerous rope over an abyss that can fall any time and come crashing down. We can stop this process from happening. We can stop the damage, the destruction process of people clinging to identity, to badass, or to culture, or my country, all of this. You dissolve that, dissolve it, to deconstruct these horrible self-images and the clinging to identification, man, badass, brutal, murder, corpse, tattoos, barbecue, hunting, brutal butchering, all of these, this a low-class man's identification. Question it, people. Question this, okay? Question it and grow, mentally grow. Become honest, become intellectually honest. That is my plea to the world. Anyway, Paul Watson won the argument by thousands and millions of times. Okay? And just wanted to say that Paul Watson is a God-level soul. He is an amazing, stellar, amazing person. What he has accomplished in terms of helping and rescuing life on Earth is absolutely, it is so infinitely vast. And there are other amazing people, of course. It's just that what I want to point out, his dedication over all these decades in helping and rescuing animals and protecting them from being butchered. Unbelievable, incredible work. Just wanted to bring this up before I talk about the other things, and ultimately the other things are going to be tying in with this subject as well, because it all ties in with one another. You can't separate anything away from, you can't isolate any component away from the whole, really, because all of this ties in with one another. And I talk about this in all of my videos. I bring these subjects up in all of my videos. So animal rights is the foundation of philosophy and ethics. That is the foundation of kindness and right conduct and dharma. So I want people to understand that and question their religions that say it's, you know, terrible things. I don't even want to repeat it. I don't even want to say it. It's so bad what some religions are saying. So question your religions. And I do meditation basically on that what is every single day. I sit down, I sit in my recliner chair. Sometimes before I pick up the computer, I just sit there and do breathing exercises, and I reflect on what's going on in my brain and what I have observed in person or on the internet. Sometimes it's very heartbreaking what I see, not just sometimes, almost every day, several times a day. I see heartbreaking things. And yesterday I went shopping, and I don't like going shopping. I get overwhelmed when I'm in a store because I pick up on every single person's energy, and there's just this chaos of energies floating in the room, and some of these energies collide with one another, and because it's all about ego energies. The ego only knows itself. The ego is not interested in the other, and ego is always only interested in its own grandeur and its own the way it looks and all of these things. And so I come into that store, and I am dressed very differently than the other people are. It may not look like this on first glance, but there's an energy thing that is attached to the way I'm dressed. It is more unconscious, more subconscious than conscious. So, someone would probably think, someone who is dressed as a goth type of person would would turn heads and stuff like this, but no, that's not the case. The goth type of person is actually ignored by most people. They don't even see the goth type of person, or someone with mega many tattoos or punk hairstyle or whatever. It's not seen. It's just ignored. It is being ignored as some kind of, oh, this is just a very young person, kiddo. But here I come in, and I don't have any of these things. I don't have anything that, I don't have a tattoo, I don't have jewelry on me. Occasionally I have my Casio watch on, but that doesn't happen very often because it's kind of uncomfortable actually. I find jewelry uncomfortable. So I have hardly any makeup on, very light makeup that I make myself, and natural and thicker eyebrows, and dorky, homely, just a t-shirt with a cargo pants. And there's something about that pisses some people off. Pisses some people. It does. It's terrible. And I see this frequently. And when they don't have anything to get mad at me for, then it's just the energy that stands in the room by itself. But yesterday, this Republican lady with 2 kids, or 3 kids, so I didn't even pay much attention. She comes in there and She sees me, obviously sees I'm different. I'm not one of her type. And the energy is like someone is like a gnome who wants to stab me. That's the energy that came at me from that lady. And standing in line for the self checkout things, I think I'm never going to those self checkout things anymore. I only have problems with that. So they usually don't work very well. And anyway, we need AGIs. So, and I didn't see that there were two of these checkout things in front of the guy in front of me. So, because I was standing there and I was busy being overwhelmed by all these energies. And the lady comes up to me. Now she had an excuse to get mad at me. That was perfect. She wanted to hurt. She wanted to yell at me, wanted to say something mean because I'm not one of her Republicans. I'm probably not a Christian. I'm probably some pagan. And standing there was dorky clothes, and she was all dressed up like she was going to like working in a bank or something. All artificial hairstyle and everything smelled real bad and artificial and smelled like pharmaceuticals, coffee, and fake perfume. And I don't know, probably 25 or so, they have kids. They start breeding very early, usually start at 18. So, very young woman with many children, totally stressed out and strained. Children had ADHD real bad, were constantly complaining, and I don't blame the children. I I think it's extremely irresponsible to put children into this world, particularly in this stressful world that we have today. And so, and I sense this horrible energy, she'll bite the hand of someone who's kind, and she will cater to the slaveholder. That's kind of like what's happening with those type of people. They are slaves. I talked to Mirka about this earlier. These people are slaves to the system, but they don't question the system. No, they are caught up in it, cater to it, hand and foot, work their butts off for it, and never question it once. So, never question their religion, never question these other people, how they function. It's always like putting all of this in in their heads as sort of like that is the norm, and they equate norm with ideal. That's what always happens. That is so incredibly dangerous, to do. And so that is what uneducated women do, and worldwide, it's not just the Republicans here in the United States. I mean, worldwide, uneducated women are very likely to be corporate slaves and slaves to their male-dominated world, and the men are, like the people in prison, and like that guy from the Faroese Islands, who slaughters pilot whales, and he thinks that's badass. He thinks that is, and also his dad probably drilled that into him as a child already. But that's the case with almost all of them. I talked about this before, that I I met this very young teenage boy who grew up in a fur maker family in Newfoundland, and I think he was also part Inuit or something, and he was a terrible hater for was like constantly trolling me and all of this. And I was showing my artwork, and I was not mean to him. I was just stating the facts the whole time. And then he finally, they, I kept blocking him. He kept coming back, and then he finally and that's because he was still young. So there was still one window open to the inner child and to love and to the infinite. And he saw my artwork, and he said that he liked my artwork very much, and he kept coming back with other accounts, and I had the feeling that was him. And then he finally admitted, and he said, yeah, I had to come back with again and again, and I knew you would figure out, and then you blocked me again, but I had to come back because I like your artwork, and I wanted to tell you that. And then I was, the mother in me was touched by that, and I saw him as that. I saw him as the child that grew up in this unfortunate situation. And I said to him, did your father threaten you and bully you and tell you that if you cry over the baby seals that you're not going to be a man? And he said that is exactly what happened. So I see this, this is a very logical conclusion to make. If you draw the line from A to B, it doesn't even require that much intuition skill, to see that this is what's happening. It's happening, and this is also what happened to his father, and that it is what happened to his grandfather, and so on, and goes back generations back. This shaming and this shaming chain reaction, and that is why the Faroese guy and all these uneducated Faroese men, that's why they often end up, in most cases actually, end up with this belief that they have to do that what their fathers drilled mean into them, instead of questioning the father. James Hetfield, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same mechanism. Then he becomes a bear hunter, and because he thinks that's the only way he can hold his male self-image. If he is this tough Viking hunter, badass guy, chopper rider, heavy metal. Oh, the eye just fell off. The eye just fell off this artwork. That is so sad. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. The eye fell off. Oh man. Because I didn't have it on well. I'm gonna have to glue it on. That's what I have to do. I have a glue. Yeah, I can use I can use the glue. Okay. And this one is about to fall off. See, it's about to fall off as well. So, okay. Well, anyway, so incredibly sad. These mechanisms, these psychological mechanisms of shaming, and when people don't question it, then they fall into it themselves, and they perpetuate that horror cycle, the horror, the immorality, the irresponsibility, and the unethical conduct that is so brutal and so horrible and so unnecessary to do. And you can see these people, they don't even eat the whale meat anymore because they know it's toxic. It's toxic from pollution. And yet they continue to torture these poor animals. They throw the whale meat back overboard. They throw it back into the ocean. They don't even want it. But they perpetuate this out of some ridiculous national pride. And that's why, it's just a very stark example to, if we look at this, we can see it very clearly, what nationalism does to people. So I hope that not just the people who already know all of this listen. I hope that some other people will find this video also and listen to what I'm saying about this. Listen to it. Question these things, man. Question society and humans. Question them, please. Question your family also. That doesn't mean you have to hate them. Just question their ways of conducting. That's all I'm asking. Quite the opposite. I want people to love their families. You love their families. You love all life on earth if you question things. If you have a good friend, for example, you show love by showing concern. When the friend is doing bullshit, you have to point that out. You have to say, look what's going on. You don't look the other way when you see your friend taking drugs or raping or doing incredibly awful things, murdering animals or doing animal testing or butchering pigs, or if you are a friend of life on earth, a friend of that person or the animals or life in general, you don't just look the other way. You don't say, oh, that's his business. This is our world. We are in this together. The animals and we are in this together. We can't just allow someone to butcher and kill life on this planet. Sentient beings that feel pain. So important to realize this. We can't continue to breed. There's no way, there's no more space. There's no more space. Look at this. Look at the situation. We're running out of space here. That's why Elon Musk wants to terraform Mars, so we can start a colony there. It has to be started at some point, even if we can't bring all these people there right away, but it has to be started at some point. And then people get mad and say, oh, we need to focus on here. The planet is overpopulating. People aren't stopping. Look at the third world. Look at all people that are less educated. Look how they're breeding out of proportion. Then the Pope, he sanctions that on top of it. Dalai Lama gets mad at China for limiting the population growth. This is not okay. That's why I'm so against religion, because these religions, they all seem to think that we have limited resources and space, and we don't. That's not scientific. That's not being realistic. That's not looking at the facts. If we want to save our quality of life on this planet, and we want to save our health and our well-being, then we cannot continue to breed. Just cannot do it. And particularly not when our life circumstances are adverse for those kind of decisions, for bringing another life into the world. If you live in poverty, or if you live in if you have mental illness, or you live in a difficult situation, you don't want to add to the difficulties. You don't want to bring another living, suffering being into that situation on top of it. And I see these women, like the lady yesterday. I see how madly they are stressed out and toxic. The entire body is toxic. The brain is toxic. They eat meat. They take pharma medication. Some of them take fertility drugs because pollution has made women infertile. And then they try to, they don't even listen to that message. They just ignore it, and they just take these drugs, and they're prescribed like without any responsibility at all by physicians that are just, they just want money. You know, they may get kickbacks from promoting certain companies and so on. It's insanity what's going on. Total insanity. And I see all of this. I stand there in line, and I go to a store, and I see all these people. I see their stories. I see all of it. And I'm overwhelmed. It's heartbreaking for me. Absolutely heartbreaking to see all of this. Oh, God. I stand there sighing. And then these kids, and then she was at the checkout next to me, and her kids, they were getting real close to my basket, to my shopping cart. And I had my purse in there, and I don't trust people, you know. I don't know what they might do. I don't know what the kids might do. And I started to get real irritated at the kids, and then I felt bad about that, and I did a little mantra, and I said, "Be safe, kid, you know, be safe." And the kid also was looking at me and staring at me, staring and staring and staring. I don't know why. Because I'm different, because I radiate out something differently. Maybe the kid could feel it. Maybe the kid was in pain and just in discomfort, total discomfort. ADHD is a state of total discomfort. It's a state of anxiety and toxicity of the body and brain. That's what ADHD is. It's what the toxicity causes ADHD. Total. I know as a child I was in a lot of discomfort myself. You know, I remember. I was toxic as well. I was full of sugar and white sugar, and we were always given pharma drugs, and you know, for any kind of thing, immediately, you know, the flu, we were giving pharma drugs. And, I don't know, lots of vaccinations, my brother and I got. Mercury fillings, I mean, you name it, we got it in our bodies. And I wonder how much of that is still in my body, how much of it went into my fat tissue or muscle tissue or bone marrow or whatever. So I'm trying to detox all of this out of my body now. So step by step with clays and with whole vegan food. Lots of water, lots of teas. I just made myself fresh wormwood tea with bitter melon and gymnema and patchouli and all these amazing great herbs that I bought, and I jumbled all of them together in one Tupper container, and I make tea with this all the time. It's kind of bitter, but it tastes good. And it's very healing, it's alkalizing, and it's detoxing. It's anti-parasitic. It is very cell healing. Very good stuff. Very good for the brain also. Listening again to Jiddu Krishnamurti and Dr. David Bohm. It's very good energy that comes from them. Very healing. And I want people to question their own habits and ways of thinking, and I want them to sit down and calm down their brains, and I want them to start doing artwork. Use old cardboard boxes like what I'm doing. Get yourself some kiddo clays, like Play-Doh or generic clays or whatever. There's so many clays you can buy on Amazon, also on Walmart, on the internet, or in discount stores, very reasonably priced. And you just start it, make something. Make something that you like. Make something that you think feels good, not because it's been advertised to you. Not make something that is commercial, or that's been commercially put into your brain, but free yourself from that and make something that feels good to you personally. And then you're on the path. Then you're rolling. Then you're flowing with the infinite. The infinite is not to be found in a religion. The religions are the farthest away from the infinite as you can possibly imagine. Nationalism, all of this pride and shame, that's the farthest vibrating away from the infinite. Love, compassion for other living beings, compassion for pilot whales, compassion for all beings, compassion for dogs and cats and rabbits and guinea pigs, and also for the little mammals, the very little the little chewing, chewing beings that chew their way through the house, or that make messes, and they all have a nervous system like we have. They all want to exist. They want to live. We can, if you have a problem with too many rats or mice, you can get birth control for them. I have done this. It works. I have done that. I only had to use it one time. I was so glad I found that on the internet. A real nice hippie lady wrote this article on natural birth control for rats and mice. And what you do is you can take any kind of flour, for example, and wheat, or you can also use mashed peas or beans or something, and you mix neem oil, a lot of neem oil into it. Neem oil from India. The neem tree is an amazing tree in India, and it is saving people's land, and the leaves are a natural pest control. It doesn't hurt the environment, doesn't hurt anyone. It makes mice and rats sterile. It doesn't make them suffer. It makes them sterile. They don't have any more litters. They're not giving birth, and it's a fantastic solution. We don't have to kill or hurt anyone. Compassion is being close to the infinite. Having compassion for all living beings. So last night under the shower when I came home, I was very angry, and I was feeling bad that I had these angry thoughts, and I was a little shocked about it also. But then I have to say to myself, allow the thoughts, don't act anything out, don't even, I don't even want to say anything mean to anyone in any situation, but not suppress the feeling either, not stand in resistance against it, because when we stand in resistance to our own feelings, then it escalates.